Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. USA President Donald Trump has decided, he has signed an executive order to relocate and resettle South Africans' white farmers to America. Yes, you heard me right. US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to relocate, then resettle South African white farmers to America. This is an actual executive order that was signed, and what the plan is that Donald Trump would have said that South African farmers can apply for asylum. They can be asylum seekers in America, and they will be well taken care of, resettled in America, given land and housing, and they will be able to practice their trade of farming in America and provide farm produce to Americans. Yes, my friends, this story is coming out of South Africa. But guess what? The South African government has responded and said that they reject that offer by Donald Trump. And I will explain to you in this video what exactly did the South African government said. But can you believe it, my friends? There are a lot of people around the world who need asylum from wars and poverty. But Donald Trump has decided to resettle white, rich South African farmers to America. This is what the South African government said about this offer, and then I will come back with my analysis. This news is coming from Business Tech out of South Africa. South African government responds to US President Donald Trump plan to resettle South African farmers. This news was the 8th of February 2025 and written by Malcolm Libera. The South African government has strongly rejected the recent executive order issued by US President Donald Trump, which outlines the plans for resettlement of South African farmers and their families to the United States. The Department of International Relations and Corporations expressed deep concern over the order, criticizing it as factually inaccurate and reflective of a misleading narrative about South Africa's history and socio-economic landscape. In an official statement, the Department of International Affairs and Relations said that the order appears to be based on misinformation and propaganda, misleading the realities of South Africa's past and present. The department noted that the disappointment that such narrative have seemingly influenced decision makers in the United States. But why? Why is this influencing? Because Elon Musk is charged with the government efficiency. He is in a new department created by Donald Trump called Government Efficiency, the Department of Government Efficiency. And Elon Musk is from South Africa. So Elon Musk is friends with a lot of these white farmers. So he told Donald Trump about this, obviously. The article goes on to say South Africa's government also highlighted the irony of the US granting refugee status to a group that remains among the most economically privileged in the country, while simultaneously denying asylum to vulnerable people from other regions. That's a great point. These white farmers are rich people. So he's going to grant asylum for rich farmers, but the others in the rest of the world who are poor and struggling and who are running away from war, he's not going to grant asylum seekers for them. That is what the South African government is saying. South Africa reaffirms its commitment to diplomacy. This is what the government is saying, my friends, stating that the misunderstandings or disputes should be resolved through constructive dialogue rather than unilateral actions. President Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, also issued a response underscoring that South Africa remains a constitutional democracy governed by the rule of law. The statement clarified that the recently enacted expropriation bill does not constitute land confiscation but provides a legal framework for land redistribution in a fair and lawful manner. Yes, this is what Donald Trump is saying, why he is relocating and resettling white farmers from South Africa, because Donald Trump is saying those farmers are being discriminated against, their lands are being taken from them, and the government is saying that is not the case. The white farmers in South Africa are still among the wealthiest citizens in the country, and they still own thousands upon thousands of acres of land. Remember, the white population in South Africa is just about 6 to 7%, but they own more than around 70% of the lands in South Africa. South Africa is a massive country. So one family in South Africa, one white family, owns like hundreds of thousands of acres of land. The government is saying they need to redistribute some of that land. So they're not going to confiscate all the land and give them to somebody else. They're going to take some and give them to those who don't have any. The government maintains that land reform is necessary to address historical inequalities and drive economic growth. Despite these clarifications, President Trump's executive order signed on February 7, 2025, marks a significant escalation in tensions between Washington and Pretoria. The order directs U.S. agencies to prioritize the admission of white South African farmers under the United States Refugee Admissions Program. Yes, so they are going to prioritize white South African farmers who are among the wealthiest people living in South Africa because they own most of the land. I'm talking about hundreds of acres, hundreds of thousands, of acres of land. Trump and other figures within his administration have framed the situation as a human rights crisis, alleging that South African government is targeting a particular group through land reform. This is not the case. They just passed a bill in Parliament. What they're going to do is to fairly redistribute some of the land that these families own, because families in South Africa own hundreds of thousands of acres of land. Alongside the resettlement initiative, Trump has followed through on his warnings to South Africa by freezing financial aid to the country. Yes, Donald Trump has already froze financial aid to South Africa. Aid in they did not just freeze aid. South Africa gave the US resources as well. So aid in exchange for resources. But of course the US is just saying that they're gonna freeze aid. But the South African government responded some time ago, a few days ago, to say no aid, no resources, no minerals. Trump justified his decision by pointing to South Africa's expropriation bill, which allows for land redistribution in the public's interests. Trump has repeatedly claimed that South Africa government is confiscating land and discriminating against certain classes of people. Ramaphosa, in his State of the Nation address, which was held, I think it was yesterday or maybe Friday, reaffirms South Africa's sovereignty, stating, this is what President of South Africa said, and I quote, "We will not be bullied. We will stand together as a united nation. We will speak with one voice and defend our national interests, our sovereignty, and our constitutional democracy." While he did not explicitly mention Trump, his remarks were widely interpreted as a direct response to US President's action. Of course, it was a response to President Trump's action. As the global political dynamics shift, the fallout from the executive order could have lasting implications for US and South Africa relations, trade and diplomatic ties, with South Africa standing firm on its land reform policies and the US taking an increasingly interventionist stance. The rift between the two nations may continue to widen in the coming months. Yes, my friends, that is it. That was the response from the South African government. But how did this started? The white farmers in South Africa, or the white Europeans in South Africa, came to South Africa in the 1600s because at that time Europe was sending its people all over the world to find new land. So these were explorers going from country to country, stealing land. So some people from the Netherlands and the UK came down on their boats. They were on their way to India, and they passed to the bottom of South Africa, where you call Cape Coast. Not Cape Coast, Western Cape, or Cape Town, down at the bottom of South Africa. They were on their way to Asia, and they saw the beautiful landscape of South Africa, and they said, this is beautiful land, let us stop and rest here. So they stopped and they wandered around, and they said, wow, we love this place, this is a beautiful land, let's take it. And then they just plant their flags in the soil and captured the land. That is how they arrived in South Africa. So they were sent. Each of them said, look, we're gonna ride our horse as far as the horse can go, west, north, and south, east and west, and we're gonna capture as much land as possible. So they captured as much land as they could. Then the Zulus in South Africa, they realized what was happening, and then they started to fight wars here and there and so on. But the Europeans had a lot of machinery, a lot of firepower. So they stayed there for hundreds of years and colonized South Africa. Then came Nelson Mandela, and the first time Nelson Mandela was jailed for 20-something years for protesting the colonization of South Africa, apartheid. So the handful of white Europeans in South Africa, they colonized South Africa and they created an apartheid system there, which they relocated the black Africans and say, you can only live in these little areas. We're gonna control most of the farmlands. And that continued up in 1994 when South Africa had its first ever elections. Can you imagine? In 1994, South Africa had its first ever elections, and that's when Nelson Mandela won the election, and that started a free South Africa. That was the first time ever since the 1600s. South Africans were free in their country. But after 1994, remember I told you in the 1600s, they came there and they stole all this land. The government, the Nelson Mandela government said, look, let's work together, let's forgive. He forgave all the farmers, the white people there in South Africa, but he left them with the land and the resources. So today, the white Europeans who came to South Africa and resettled and stole the land still occupy most of the land and still have most of the land in South Africa. That is why they're able to do farming, and that is why they're so rich. They export, South Africa export billions of dollars worth of nuts, citrus fruits, and grapes to the United States every year. My friends, thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think about this topic. Please comment your thoughts and opinions. Let's have a wonderful interactive conversation. Like the video, share it with all your friends and family. And if you're watching for the first time, please consider subscribing to my channel. My name is Beyond. This is Beyond Uncut. On this channel, we aim to bridge the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. I am here right now in the beautiful Caribbean African diaspora. The mission of this channel is to bridge the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. You can become a member of this channel by clicking the link in this description box and joining the channel, my friends. Thank you for watching this video, and you can also click the link in the description box and subscribe to my other travel channel that I have. I have a travel channel that I do travel vlogs on and talk about travel information when I do travel. So let me know what you think about this video. My name is Beyond. This is Beyond Uncut, and I'll see you again in the next video tomorrow. I will see you again tomorrow in the next video. Much love. But before I go, imagine Donald Trump will help these wealthy, rich farmers, white rich farmers from South Africa to resettle in America, to occupy land, housing, all the benefits that America has. But we have African Americans that are homeless in America, that cannot receive any help from the government. This is why I say, my friends, we need to work together, the African continent and the African diaspora. We need to work together and strengthen each other, because the European countries, the Americans, you see what Donald Trump is doing? He's strengthening his people. So we need to do the same and strengthen our own people. We have the African continent and we have the African diaspora, which makes up the Caribbean island nations, African Americans, Afro-Canadians, Afro-British, Afro-Europeans, Africans in South America. We are large and strong and powerful, unstoppable force once we work together as one. So my friends, thank you for watching this video. Comment your thoughts, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again tomorrow in the next video. Bye bye.